Hello and welcome to this tutorial to help you learn more about building Workbooks reports. In this session we're going to look at how to add one or more summary views to your report. Hopefully you've already watched the tutorial about creating a simple list report, and in this session we're going to take the three details reports created there and modify them to include a summary so that they meet the specification of the reports we were asked to build. At the moment you can see a couple of screenshots. The one on the right in dark blue shows the views you'd see when a report's in run mode. You can see that the top one is the details view, although in your reports it might have a different name, but it will still be the details view. The screenshot at the top, the lighter blue one, shows exactly the same report but in edit mode, and you can see that there are different tabs for each of the views in the column screenshot that you can see. In this tutorial I'll cover how to create a fairly straightforward summary from the details view and how to add data to your summary that's already contained in your details. We'll look at how you can group the records in your summary together, how to introduce subtotals, and then how to count records rather than adding up values. We'll also cover how to add what we call a split column, which is a really useful way to create different columns showing totals, counts, averages, maximum, minimum values, that kind of thing. And finally, we'll look at copying a summary to create a new one. As a quick reminder, this is the report that our sales manager asked us to create to show the sales pipeline. We've already created the details view for this in a report called Opportunity Pipeline, so we'll move into Workbooks to have a look at that and edit it. To find your report, navigate to the report's landing page. And if you created it, you'll see it here in the My Reports view, otherwise it will be in the All Reports view. Remember too that if you've only recently created the report or used it, it will appear in your recent items as well. Here's a really quick recap of how we built the details view. We went from Start, New Report, Blank Report and chose Opportunities. Give your report a name and click Save. Add in the columns you want, which for us were the Assigned To column, and we changed the title to Sales Rep, the amount in home currency, the stage and the opportunity reference. We also applied a criterion to restrict the report to opportunities with a state of open. Select the report that you want to amend, which for us is Opportunity Pipeline, and then from the left click Edit this report. From here simply click on Add Summary View, which opens up a new tab for you. Do give your summaries decent names, otherwise what you'll end up with is a whole list of summaries, Summary 1, Summary 2 and so on, which won't help your audience understand what the summaries are showing. When you click Save, it'll automatically open up the Columns tab on the Summary view. Now we can use this Add Value button, and we can do one of 5 things with it. I'm going to show you the bottom one first, the one that says Value Column, because that's the most simple. If I select Value Column, I can then use this drop down to select one of the columns that's in my details view or in the parent view of my summary. Notice that when we created the details view we had a really long list of columns to choose from, but now we can only select from the things that we've put into our details view. If you'd added any columns to your details view that you'd then hidden, they'd still be selectable here. I don't want to add one of these columns to my report, so I won't do that, but you can see how to achieve it. The fourth option down is a calculated column, which if I select it, it asks me to enter a formula. But I'm not going to be creating formulae in this session, so I'm not going to select that option either. There is a tutorial called Commonly Used Formulae that will use this type of column. So let's have a look at the other 3 options. The first one, subtotal column. This provides you with an inbuilt formula that calculates the total of the values in a column. It could be a financial value or a numerical value that's being totaled, but all this column will do is add them up. I've talked about being able to group things in a summary report, and if you look further down the screen, there is the option to group your records together. The second option, summarized column. It's very similar to the subtotal column because you can calculate the total of the values in a column, but this time you've got the option to change these. You can do things like count the number of items that you've got in a column. You can find the smallest or the largest value using minimum and maximum, or work out the average of the values in your column. If you choose to use minimum or maximum on a column that contains text rather than a number, you'll get the value that starts with either the earliest or the latest letter of the alphabet. And just like with the subtotal column, we've got an option down the bottom here to group the records. The third option, the only one we haven't covered yet, is split column. Split columns are really useful because they allow you to build a matrix report really easily. You can still calculate the total, the count, the minimum, maximum, and so on. That's still an option. But you can take the values and split them across different columns, as well as being able to group by the rows, hence me describing it as a matrix report. For our purposes then, we want a report that shows a row for every sales rep, showing us the total value of their opportunities, and in addition, we want to bucket together the values for each opportunity stage into different columns split across the screen. First of all, I'm going to use the Add Value column to select Subtotal column. In the first drop-down, I'm going to choose to subtotal the amount in home currency. Again, you can give this a different title if you want. Maybe you just want to say amount. And then further down the screen where I can group by, because I want a separate row for each sales rep, I'm going to group by the sales rep. If I didn't group by anything, you don't have to, it's not mandatory, but if I didn't, I would just end up with one row showing the grand total, the amount of all the opportunities in one big bucket rather than separated out by sales rep. So I'll save and close that and refresh the preview just to show you what that's done. And there you go, you've now got separate rows for each sales rep with an amount on the right hand side of their, in our case, open opportunities. To add in the columns for each stage, I'm going to use the Add Value column button again, and this time select Split column. Under the column, I still want to see the amount in home currency, and again, you can rename that if you choose. And I do still want to see the total, but I want them split across the columns by the stage that the opportunities reached. Under Split Type, if you select all pick list values, you'll see a column for each opportunity stage, even if there aren't any opportunities at some of those stages, whereas selecting values in the parent view will just give you the options that show in your details view. Selecting just these values starting with does what it says really, and what you would have to do is put in the beginning of the words that you were looking for, separated by commas. That's not what I want to do. I want to select, and it's probably the most common option, the values in the parent view. You can see that where before, when I opened the column before we'd used it, we did have the option to group it by something, but our report's already been grouped, so I don't need to consider that here. So I'm going to click Save and Close. Now when I refresh the preview, you'll see that additional columns have been added that represent each of the stages that appear in my details view. So we can see that for Alex, the individual stages have got amounts in, and then we can see the grand total, the amount as well. If you want to see this total over on the far right, simply drag it and drop it. Remember, your summary view inherits any criteria in the view it's based on, which for us is the details view, so this summary is only showing us the results for open opportunities. If you base a summary on a summary, which we will look at in a different session, it will inherit not just the criteria from the details view, but also any that have been added to the parent summary that it's based on. But be aware of this. Remember, I'm in the summary view, and if I go and look at the criteria tab, it says there are no criteria defined in this view, but in tiny letters it does highlight that there may be other criteria defined in details. And indeed there are. We asked just to see the open opportunities. So that's your first summary report, which has given you an introduction to grouping and showing subtotals, as well as introducing the idea of a split column. Let's have a look at what was required for our second report, which was about support cases. Here's what we were asked to build. You can see it's very similar to the Opportunity Pipeline report in layout, the difference being that we want to see a count of the number of different types of cases rather than subtotaling the values. As with the Opportunities report, I'll provide a very quick overview of how we built the Details view for the Cases report. Went to Start, New Report, Blank Report, Cases, gave it a name, click Save. Then we added in columns for the Assigned To field, which we renamed CSA. We added in the type and the case reference. And just like with the Opportunity report, we applied a criterion of State is Open. I'll run the Open Cases report and edit it just like before, and click on Add a Summary View. Again, give your summary a name, and click on Save to open the columns. This time I'm going straight for adding a split column, and we're being asked what it is we want to split across the page. It's kind of what we want to see in the intersecting cells, if you like, of your rows and columns. So in this case I'm going to use the case reference, and instead of asking those to be calculated as a total, which doesn't really make any sense, I'm going to change this to count. Then I still have to say what I want to split by, so I want columns for each of the different types of cases. I'll use the values in the parent view, and I'm given the option to group these things. So what rows do I want to see? And I want to see rows for each customer support analyst, each CSA, so I'll choose that, and there's our report. There are a lot of different case types, so the report is scrolling off to the right, but that's just because of the data set. We were also asked to add in the total number of cases that each CSA has, so I'm going to add a value column again, and I'm going to choose Summarised column. I'm still going to use the case reference, and again I'm going to count it, but of course this isn't being split across any columns, it's just the grand total if you like. Because I've only just added that column, when I refresh the preview, it's going to be on the far right hand side. And there it is. You can drag and drop it over if you prefer. That would take quite a while with all these split columns, so it's another reason why it's very good to plan your report before you try to design it. The third report we were asked to build was to show a row for each month with a column showing the number of sales leads created in that month. Here's a quick reminder of how we built the sales leads report. We went to Start, New, Report, Blank Report and selected Sales Leads. We gave the report a name and clicked Save. Within the Columns tab, we added a column for the Created At field, and then we used the options in the Advanced tab to format that date as a month and year. Then we added a column for the sales lead reference. Let's open the Open Sales Leads by Month report, and we'll add a summary to that one. All we need to do here is add a summarised column that uses the sales lead reference, and we're going to count it again rather than adding them up, and we're going to group by the month year, which is the column that we engineered, if you like. We used the created at date in our details view but displayed it as a month year. And there it is. I'll just pull this over to make it slightly easier for you to see, but we've got the report. We've now created all three reports that we were asked for. Remember, you'll need to share each of them with the relevant users, which you do in edit mode, using the padlock in the top right, and add a rule in. Maybe I want the marketing team to see this. But that's just the same as you would do for any other record in Workbooks. Bear in mind that with each of these reports we kept things as simple as possible by only including the bare minimum fields in our details view that we needed in order to generate the summaries. If I drill into the numbers here, let's say if I drill into this 32, what I'm seeing is a view of the details report with a filter automatically applied to show me the leads from a specific month. And that might be fine, that might be all that you require, but generally users would expect to see other columns too to give them better insight. It's good to plan your report in advance, but if you forget something or requirements change over time, you can edit the details and add in more columns. For example, if I wanted to see how many cases each CSA had split into columns for the priority, I could do this. Open the Cases report, edit it, and on the Details tab, add in a column for priority. While I'm here, I'll add in a few more columns too. So I'll add in the status, the contact name, and the employer. Now I'm going to create a new summary, just like the previous one. So add summary view. This time I'm given a choice to add a blank summary based on the details, which is the default, or to base it on an existing summary. Alternatively, I could use the radio button here and say copy an existing summary view. I've only got one, but I would normally get in that drop down the choice of any existing summary views that I've got. I am going to base this on the details. Give your summary a name. Now, I want to point this out because it confuses some people. I've jumped back to my first summary, that's the one that's highlighted, and the reason for that, if I go to my report tab, is because in the initial view section it says that the summary called cases grouped by rep and split by type is the view that's initially shown to users when they open this report. It also means that every time in edit mode you save the report, that's the view that's going to reopen for you. So it's not Workbooks going wrong, you've instructed it to do that, but that's why. So I'm going to go back to my cases by priority. I haven't put anything in there yet. I'm going to add in a value column of type split column. In terms of the column that I'm going to use the case reference, and I'm going to count them like we did before. This time though, I'm going to split them by priority, which I can now do because I've got the priority column in my details view. So I'll select that and values in the parent view. Group by CSA. And there it is, a similar view to the one that we've already built, but using different aspects of the case to give us information. And hopefully you can see why lots of people liken our reporting to Excel pivot tables, because in a similar way you can reorganize your data, group it, you can count entries, add totals and so on. Before finishing, I'm going to show you what happens when you copy a summary to create a new one. So add a summary view, copy an existing one. I'm going to copy the cases by priority, that second summary that I've just created. And if I load the preview, you can see I get exactly the same results as the previous report. I can change things around. Maybe I want to group this by type instead of CSA. So if I go to the columns tab, I can change the grouping to type. Copying a summary can be a really useful way to build your reports out quickly. You can change columns quickly, groupings, as you saw I did that, or you can apply different criteria, so bear it in mind as a tool to help you be a bit more efficient. To review what we've looked at, we've seen that you can create a blank summary based on your details report, and in fact your first summary will always be based on your details. We've looked at using the Add Value column button to populate the summary view. We grouped data into rows and we showed subtotals. For us it was the subtotal of the value of opportunities for each sales rep. We used the summarized column to count cases and then leads, in each instance using the unique record reference. We used split columns to bucket together the information that we wanted split across vertical columns. And we finished by taking a quick look at copying an existing summary view to create a new one. So now you know how to create simple summary views. Other tutorials take these techniques further, so do look out for the ones covering how to join different record types, using targets in your reports, commonly used formulae and conditional formatting. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and remember to check our knowledge base for more information. You'll find reporting help on workbooks.com/help/reporting.